And hello there and welcome. So I put together a little guide on installing Palworld on your TrueNAS Scale server. This video will also show you how to access your Palworld backups and how to modify the configuration files for your server. To do so, we'll be setting up a Windows share so we can easily access those files from your PC. And yeah, so let's get started, shall we? So the first thing we're going to do is create a user with Samba access. This will be for the Windows share we'll be creating later on in the video. If you already have a user in mind, you can skip this step altogether. One thing to note, be sure to remember the UID or the user ID for this particular user. Now we're going to create a dataset where our Palworld data will reside at. It's best practice to keep our apps separate from one another and keep things a little tidy. With this new dataset, we need to modify its permission to allow the Palworld application and the user we created in the beginning the ability to read and write to it. We'll set the owner to Palworld admin, and as for the groups, we'll set it to apps. The apps groups is used for permission management for application that Scale is able to install. Before you save, be sure to select Write in the Access section for groups. We can now install Palworld through the Apps section. A majority of the settings can be left at default. However, there are a few things we need to configure. The admin pass will let you use a few commands that you can either enter in-game or through Archon. I'm going to leave the server name and server description as is, but you can change it to whatever you desire. For the server password, you can either set a password or simply leave it blank, which will allow anyone to join. I do highly recommend configuring backups for your server. The next section we need to change is under the user and group configurations. Set the user ID to the Palworld admin UID, for my case 3001. The group ID can be left alone as is since it's already set to 568, which is the apps group. Now under storage configurations, we need to tell it where to install Palworld. Set both the Steam CMD and the Palworld server storage to the Palworld dataset we created earlier. The last step is to give it as much RAM as you can afford. 16 GB is a minimal requirement based on a technical documentation. Once Palworld has finished installing, we want to enable Windows shares so we can edit the world settings. Start off with stopping Palworld and head over to Shares, select Add and the Palworld dataset. Keep everything default since permissions have already been configured. Once that's done, open up File Explorer on Windows and in the address bar enter / the TrueNAS system name or IP address, /Palworld. Wait a few seconds and a window asking for login credentials will appear shortly, which I so happen to forget to record. Sorry about that. Anywho, the username and password will be the user we created in the beginning of this video. Once you're inside, we want to navigate to where our Palworld configuration file is residing at. Select Pal, Saved, Config, Linux Server. The file we want to edit is Palworld Settings. Right-click the file and open it in Notepad or whatever text editor you prefer. The final step is to enable port forwarding on your router. This is to allow other players access to your server. You can skip this step if you only want to host Palworld locally. The next part, however, is going to be different depending on the router you have. I'm just going to show you mine. So you might have to dig around in your router, but you want to find the option for port forwarding. You want to port forward the port 38211 UDP to the IP address of your server. And that's pretty much it. You can start the Palworld server backup and log into Palworld. You can access your server by entering your server's IP address at the bottom, followed by the $, with the port 38211. And yeah, hopefully this video was able to help you out in the end, and I wish you guys the best. And Palworld, yeah, take care.